Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Metal. Today I have my video talking about the albums that I listened to in August. I'm not going to have as much to talk about here as I did in July. I only listened to 4 things in August, which included 2 albums and 2 EPs. But I guess without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it.
Let the fire climb! Our cries are growing thin like a...
So the first thing that I checked out was the new album from Fit for a King, which is called Lonely God. I've been a fan of Fit for a King for several years now. I first became a fan of them back around 2014 or 2014, shortly after their album Slave to Nothing came out. Subsequently, like during high school, got into like their album Death Grip, which came out in 2016. But I became like really a fan of them, I would say, when Dark Skies came out back in 2018. I was kind of like, I liked a few of their songs here and there off of some of their albums prior to that, but that album was what really got me into them. So I was very much looking forward to this one. And I think their last album, their previous album, The Hell We Create, was by far their best album. I really liked that album. And this one I really enjoyed. There was a lot of good stuff on it. I don't think it's quite as much a favorite for me as their previous album. I would probably say, it's on par with some of their other stuff, like, I would say probably about, for me, on par with something like The Path, or maybe like a little lower than Dark Skies, somewhere in there. But I really did still enjoy it a lot. It was very different for them. It had a lot of fresh ideas on it for the band. That's something that I've always kind of appreciated about them, is that each of their albums kind of tries something a little bit different. So even though you have, each album like sounds like Fit for a King in whichever iteration they're at by that album, each one still has something a little bit distinctive and different to it, which is something I definitely got from this album. And so I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of songs on here that have kind of become new favorites for me for Fit for a King. For example, the opening track, Begin the Sacrifice, I think is fantastic, one of my favorites on the album, as is the closing track, which is called Witness the End, which has a feature from Chris Motionless from Motionless in White. And that's a fantastic song. That one kind of dips its toes a little bit into like modern, like kind of melodic symphonic deathcore kind of feeling, kind of like, Lorna Shore, that kind of thing.
Open your eyes! Say they had known my visions!
And it's really cool. I really like that song a lot. But my favorite song on the album is probably the most mellow song on the album, which is called Between Us, which is a very melodic song. Even though Fit for a King, I feel like, tends to be most known for doing heavy stuff, for me, they've always really shown in their melodic aspects, and I think this song really highlights that for me. I love that song. I think it's fantastic, but this is a really good album. There was a few songs on it that I feel like didn't quite land for me, whereas like I listened to them and they were good, but they're not ones that I would ever really feel like returning to. But it was a really solid album and I enjoyed it. The next thing was an EP, another metalcore release, which is by Her Last Sight, and it is called Seasons Summer. I first discovered these guys a little after their previous EP, Seasons Winter, came out, and I really enjoyed that EP. And this one I would say I enjoyed at a pretty similar level. It's, to me, nothing mind-blowing, but a pretty enjoyable listen if you're into metalcore. Kind of having a nice, like, very classic feeling, but kind of modernized. Like, it feels kind of like a mix of that kind of mid to late 2000s melodic metalcore style that you get with bands like As I Lay Dying, Killswitch Engage, Bullet for My Valentine, that kind of thing. Mixed with a little bit of like the early 2000s kind of rise-core type sound, but kind of brought into kind of the modern age a little bit. So if that is something that you're interested in, it kind of does a really good job of blending like just the entirety of kind of more melodic metalcore across the years all into this one kind of sound. So it's got kind of like the melodic but heavy aspects of those kinds of early to mid 2000s bands, but then combining kind of a little bit more of the poppy, very melodic type stuff that you'd see with, a band like, for example, something like We Came as Romans or something like that. Yeah, I really liked this. It was pretty solid. I don't think I liked it as much as Seasons Winter, but I still enjoyed it a fair amount and would definitely recommend checking it out if you are a fan of metalcore. Next thing I listened to was another new release. Actually, everything on here was released this year, which is Vengeance by Drown in Sulphur. This is a deathcore band. This one I was a little late to. I knew this album had come out very early in the year and I just had never gotten around to listening to it, but I finally did, and I really liked it. It was really good. I really loved their previous album. I'm forgetting what the name of it was off the top of my head, but their previous album that actually came out last year, I really liked. A very good kind of symphonic, blackened deathcore kind of thing, as well as their album before that I also really enjoyed. This one was really interesting because it kind of had a little bit of a similar sound to their last album, but also did something a little bit different. To me, this was like a blending, like if you took a little bit symphonic, a little bit melodic, a little bit black metal-y in some places kind of sound of some of Lorna Shore's stuff, and mixed it with like the djenty kind of style of like early 2010s Born of Osiris, and then mixed it with a little bit of the production and some of the guitar playing of Humanity's Last Breath. Mix that all together, you'd get something kind of like this album. So it's a very unique sound. It's not something that, I absolutely loved as much as their previous album, but there were a lot of songs on here I liked. I do think, though, that despite, having such an interesting combination of different sounds that kind of are reminiscent of other bands, I do think that the album kind of felt a little repetitive as it went along. Like, by the time you get to, like, the 7th, 8th, 9th song, I was kind of like, oh, it feels like I've heard this already on this album. It's still good, it was still well done, but, it is a little bit repetitive and doesn't have a whole lot really to offer once you've already heard, like, each of those styles kind of played in this album. But it's still really solid. I still enjoyed it. I still recommend it. Like I said, didn't probably like it as much as their previous album, but still really solid, and definitely had a few songs from it that I really enjoyed. And the last thing I listened to is an EP, although it really is more the length of a single, which is called the Gore Track Sessions by a band called Basalt, or Basalt, however you would say it. This is a new kind of deathcore project, side project from some members from other bands. This one is really interesting because it is 4 songs long, but the entirety of it is less than 5 minutes. And each song is like a minute and a half long. And this is basically, it uses a lot of like samples from like movie lines and things like that. And all of these songs basically are like if you took a super heavy breakdown from a deathcore song, and that's just the song. Like these songs are literally just breakdowns, and it's really over the top, very just overly heavy and brutal, but really cool. I still enjoyed it. I listened to the whole thing a couple of times because it, even though it's very short and sweet, there's not a whole lot to it. I still think it was fun to listen to. And the way that the samples are integrated was actually kind of funny at some points, but yeah, something that I'll definitely be interested to see more of, hopefully as they kind of develop maybe into more of like a full-length album kind of thing maybe. I think would be interesting to see, kind of see this formula applied to more lengthier songs or something like that. I think would be interesting, but yeah, I enjoyed this one though. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you are interested in like super heavy breakdowns, deathcore kind of thing. I would probably recommend it. So that's pretty much all I got for you. I know I didn't have a whole lot to talk about in this video, but I did not listen to a whole lot of new music this month. I spent a lot of this month re-listening to a discography to prepare for a video that I'm going to be doing, which I actually have one of those coming soon on this channel, but this is not for that. This is one that I've been working on. The one that's coming out I've already been working on for a couple months now, but the stuff that I was listening to this month is for something coming a little later down the line. So yeah. if you have heard any of these, let me know what you thought of them in the comments. If you listened to anything cool that I didn't mention, let me know about that in the comments as well. And yeah, so I guess I'll be checking in next month to talk about the stuff that I listened to in September. So that's pretty much it for this one. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.